Today is the 12th of January 2016, and we're going to be making a loop. I started here in Thakhek, down right about here where Wang Wang rental motorbike, mini bike, bicycle place is, and Mrs. Na. Came out this road, got some gas right here, got some money exchanged here, drove out through here. Now we're following this loop, or this road here, and we're going to make a loop up through here, around through here, and down through here. It'll take us about 3 days. Stay in hostels en route. Today, we passed up that place, and we passed up that place, and we stopped right here at Xieng Liab Cave. Here we are, stopped at the local school, probably a primary school. Just a few children, one big room. Beautiful area, lovely morning, cool breeze here in the shade of these big karst mountains. Sure, not speaking English, but indicated I go to the cave right around the corner here, so off we go. Small corral. Following what passes for a stream. It's kind of still right now. It was interesting, at some point in time they cut down a big tree, but for some reason just left these big slabs, which would seem to have use in this society, just lying fallow. Just above the cave, and it's a cave that has water coming out of it, which seems to be characteristic of a lot of these caves in this part of the world. This is that it's innate to the culture, or the scientific culture, if you will, of karst caves, since they're limestone caves created by the movement of water from the surface down through them over time. Here we just have that continuing dynamic, but what's interesting is in a dry season that it still is generating as much water as it is. No point in wandering down into there and running the risk of that for just to see more of what we probably see right here. Looking down into another portion of the cave, a bigger cavern. Probably if I had a big light I'd worry about looking down into that, but the dirt coloration, it's either comes from wind or it just comes from the water that either comes in here from the outside or just flows through. You wouldn't think it would have that much mud on it, but apparently for some reason it does. Climbed up to get a little bit different perspective. I'm not sure it's much of a difference. We'll go down into the cave with the camera. There's a considerable wind blowing, as you can see, out of the cave, suggesting that there are considerable openings elsewhere and perhaps above that are creating the Bernoulli effect, I think it's called. Back towards the cave, which is to our left. Particularly pretty stream because of the literally dirt that the land here is composed of. The water looks polluted. I don't know if that's a product of going through the karst or whether it's polluted water or both. Just entertained myself and them with a little bit of English, and they responded beautifully. How are you? How are you? I am fine. I am fine. Where are you from? Where are you from? I am from America. I am from America. We're at is called the Thalang. Apparently a great place for swimming. I don't swim in this kind of water. It's a very pretty place in spite of the trash. But remember, the trash can always be picked up. It's a beautiful spot, really. As long as it's preserved, it can all be bought back. beautiful surroundings with these lovely karst mountains. And families picnicking here on the weekend. Kids swimming in the water, maybe even bringing down little rubber inflatables. I don't care much about going into caves anymore, I've done it. But I do enjoy being out in the country, particularly with the solitude, the quiet, the lack of people. Walking down this road parallel to the curving Thalang in the hopes that I can get another perspective. Doesn't that in the center look like a squirrel climbing up that mountain? A huge squirrel. Bulldozer's been in here recently clearing all this off, but carefully so that it's not destroying the big trees or the topography. For what reason, don't know, unless it just wants to expand out the area for more people to enjoy. They're just going to push all the debris into the Thalang itself. Just a little bit further on, but still within that graded area, is this area that's usable and is used for picnicking and so forth. Usable, I mean in the dry season at least. I'm guessing this is kind of like, I think what they call in the south a bayou. Just a long river, slow river-like body of water that's sinuous. See this on the right hand little red spot surrounded by blue is where we went to that cave, and now where the blue circle is where we're standing on this river, we'll call it. I'm not sure what the red point is. Sabaydee. The tattered looking wings. Either it's been eaten by ants or it's a defense in disguise method. Nope, it's symmetrical to each wing. So that's one of its disguise mechanisms. Another view on my way out. Another portion of it we haven't seen. Now we're at the next little cave, Tat Namsanam. And it's just that little line that goes up where it says green climbing house. And we're above that little line. After quasi dumping my bike when I panicked and I was trying to put the brake on with my right hand while I was at the same time twisting the handle, which was giving it more acceleration, which was throwing it out of control as I did a turn in the middle of the road. Just put it down on the side, but good learning lesson. I'm going to go right back up and do it again. Again, the whole point of today's trip is to see this kind of thing. This is pretty much how the karst canyons, caves work, is that you get those layers and then you get water percolating through those layers, creating caves up there at an earlier point in geological history, and then a cave down here. And you can see where there's been erosion all along here. A little bit of water back inside. We'll walk along this cavern hallway, if you will. You can see how the water moved in a stream through this layer and eroded out at one time, and here an even greater amount. People certainly spend time in here where they camp out, where they fish, I don't know. My guess is that there's probably people bring boats in here. How far back in this goes, I don't know, but I don't intend to find out. Probably a mud base, just a little bit of water in it. You can see the depth there. And we can see other channels that were worn out to the surface, no big surprise. And whether this mud gets in here from the outside, out there, or whether it comes down from the surface, or whether it's in the water as the water dissolves material out of this karst rock. Don't think the latter. But if you wanted to spend the evening for whatever the purpose would be, this could be a pretty spot. For them it is. For me it'd be a dump. But on the other hand, if you got your camping gear and your motorcycle camping or something like that, it still would be a nice spot. Also, if you look on the outside of the cave here, you can see the water line, which I'm standing below, in the wet season, when this fills up as a pool, and probably a pretty nice place to cool off before the rain comes, which will cool you off anyway. Even my bike would be partially underwater. Okay, there's a bit more to this cave complex than I had seen initially. A couple hundred yards back from the direction we came in is this Buddha, and then here's a cave down through there, and another cave down through there, and then stairs going up. So we'll explore this. Okay, nothing but a little water pit with some trash in it. It's too bad that people don't respect their own country enough. But then, if trash is something you really don't see because it's just always there, maybe that's the point. Okay, a little bit better, bigger chunk of cave that we'll go into. I wonder if these stalagmites would have been pretty in their past. They look so covered with mud that it's hard to imagine them being other than this look. They look like the cave just outside of Tucson. Forget what it's called. But it's a great dry cave. Dry meaning there's no more water percolating. But this is pretty, isn't it? Notice on the right are the big formations caused by the water percolating down. But here what you've got is sculpturing from water passing through, probably much earlier. I think you can scoot through there, but I don't really have an inclination. I've got my light with me, but I'm not going to bother. So this answers the earlier question of where that body of water was. Probably all this fills up to pretty good height at some point in time. Marginally interesting, but worth the exercise. Coming from that direction about half a mile is a sign that says 3 kilometers. So you go all the way up here 3 kilometers, of course you don't find it. Up there, about a half a kilometer, is another sign when you're coming this way that says 3 kilometers. But this is where it is. And here's the sign. Nothing in English. This is not incompetence. I mean, this is absolutely incompetence. This is not lay back. This is incompetence. There's a big cave. It might be kind of fun to go in here. It's 50K just to go in, which is $5, which isn't that much because you go in about an hour on a boat, I guess. You can see they once had grand plans, probably something that actually looked pretty good, and now it's just, of course, deteriorated into nothing, which is typical. Certainly we can walk around, so I'll walk around and see. I don't know if I want to go for 2 hours inside this cave. This is Southeast Asia in a nutshell. So as you can see, it's being turned into Disneyland. Once upon a time, this actually was a dam for creating a pool here. These stairs are new, and this is nice. So slowly but surely, they're probably restoring this to something that will be more attractive for tourists. At least you know your money's going for something. Doing what other places do, put a good extensive stair system in so people can walk about and see things. That's good. I'm guessing that down there is the river that you can follow for an hour in a boat and then an hour back. I don't think I want to do that. It's curious. It looks like they're actually manufacturing their own stone flow, if you will, for whatever the reason. Other than being fairly large, there's nothing really that unique about it. Again, it's an old dry cave. On the boat trip, you go down these ladders, get into those boats, and go through. Apparently that stairway is just for the fellows that operate the boats to get down to their boats, and then they'll paddle you through. It's a pretty reasonable price, $5 for paddle for 2 hours. This is how it would look inside. That'd probably be an interesting experience. I think I've done it before, though. The steps bring you down here, but then it's just all this irregular cement and or stonework. Can't tell whether this is original stone flow from the mountain itself with dripping water on it, or it's fresh cement. This looks like fresh cement. It has to be on top of that cement step. But here, getting down here, it's just rough and the lighting is poor. So we'll go back down those stairs and then up to the left. And I think it goes a continuing loop of some sort, but it's not a continuous loop, although this part may just be a spur for the boat rides. As I work my way out on the apparent loop, past this little bit of a shrine. Still water dripping down through here. It looks like this was probably a stalactite that then got eroded by water coming through here over time. Notice how much had been broken off. That was just a climb up to this opening on the wall of the mountain exterior. The land is parched right now in the dry season. Presumably this is what's left over after the rains have dried up. Thought I could hike about a few hundred yards through this jungle and get to an open area and pan this whole mountain range after I'd shot this beautiful karst peak, but no such luck. Just ends up with a 45-minute hike through the jungle, which is fun. Our trusty steed in the foreground. Another shot of that pinnacle, if you will. Now, whether this is a fishing net for fishing, more likely it's a barrier for something, but what, I really don't know. In spite of the trashed out area, I just wanted to get these pretty mountains here. Whatever its purpose, it long ago failed. Unless I wander off the road, got freeway and power lines, or highway and power lines. Tell me that's not back-breaking work. This is part of a substantial irrigation system. I assume that's a dam right there. Saw parts of this further on down. It's pretty large, and then I saw some smaller, very small, like the size of a normal single road, one lane. That will be a substantial improvement, at least in the, if it were in the north. But I thought this area already had pretty good water, but maybe not. And if not, then this is excellent, because then they can get rice year-round. So here's the dam, and it's probably going to back up a lot further around there too. It's climbed up onto the top of this mountain range from the second or number 2 big huge power generating plant. We're almost to the top. Well, it appears we've climbed up on top of a high plateau, because we climbed up that steep mountain and we haven't gone down yet. I'm panning across this huge water area that probably gets a little bit deeper in the wet season. As you can see from the banks, they probably got another 6 feet to go, which is not much, but that's a huge area out there. Also, the temperature is much cooler up here, I realized, on the bike, which is still nice. This is amazing. I saw it looked like a large body of water, but I thought, oh, maybe it's not a body of water, but something else that the map's trying to depict. So this may be the water source of that irrigation project that we were looking at. Finally, I came in right along through there. And these are villages that are very much some of the original kind. All wood houses on the second floor. This is their world. Dogs, chickens, everything else. They got house about ready to fall over. The boats these folks paddle on, I don't know if they've purposely sunk them so that they'll absorb water and expand and seal up, or whether these are just left to abandon. In this kind of country, it's very difficult to tell. They'll usually let something go until it just cannot be fixed. And it's a result of lack of maintenance in the first place that it gets that way. We have a brood of chicks herded underneath Mom, if you've never seen it before. I haven't. But there it is. Unless you're the last guy in, then of course, duh. It looks like a comfortable place to be. They think so anyway. Don't you guys? Yeah, we do. Probably everybody's got a cell phone. I'm looking back the route I came up along this huge reservoir, I guess you'd have to call it. I'm pretty sure it is. Maybe it was once a lake and now it's expanded into a bigger reservoir. But the dead trees, I think, are indicative of that. I suspect it roams as far as one can imagine. It'd be great to kayak in. This is the restaurant at Sabaydee Guesthouse in La Prang, or whatever it is, and on the loop in Laos. My guess is that when they flooded this, the people moved up here. Probably relatively easy to move their homes. I would also bet it dramatically increased their fishing potential over time. And this is the facility that he's built here. 3 nice little cabanas that divide into 2 units. And then these little, whatever you call them, cabanas, I guess. And then in the back, he's building some brand new ones. So he's very enterprising, very hardworking. And he probably makes good money for this society, but he's got a great future that he's carved out for himself. Might have been pretty one time. One girl's job early in the morning, starting probably about 6:30, is to water all the plants on the property, which she does with a bucket that she continually refills. This is a common practice in restaurants, simple ones or complex ones, and that is a little wash basin right in the eating area where you can wash your hands. But in this case, the faucet no longer works, so they run a hose up here as a temporary meaning for the next 10,000 years. This morning I start with my chicken noodle soup, for lack of a better term, but the real way, the Oriental way, Southeast Asia way. Very, very good. I've got to learn how to do this when I go home. It's so simple, it's unbelievable. This entire landscape that I'm traveling through this morning looks like this. My guess is that we're on a big flat plateau, and that when that dams were put in, it raised the water level up to fill in all of these slightly low spots, providing firewood for the local people for an infinite period of time. So up here, a couple of kilometers, began the dirt part of this road, which otherwise is excellent, but all this is just being constructed, major effort around the corner that you can't see from this point. This is the part that's just about ready to be pretty much cleaned up. And then they'll probably pave it, so the rest of it is like what you're looking at here that will be on, I think, for another 10 or 15 kilometers. This represents a major improvement for the loop and for this part of central Laos. Here's a major part of some work, replacing a culvert with a bigger drain through. And it's all just kind of whatever we've got to do. The strategy is they bring in continuous big trucks, loads full of rock like you see piled on the left, and they just keep piling it until they get a piece of equipment free that can go in and then start to level it out. You can see again how they're using logs, regular trees from the forest, which we've got a ton of, so you stack them over there to build this support infrastructure to hold up these 2 or 3 walls that are going to build here, including right along here out of cement. So this is just building the forms right now. One more load in there. And we'll pan and look at some of the beautiful landscape up here in the mountains, particularly with the fog still rolling through. Tad chilly when you're riding on the asphalt because you're doing 55, 60 kilometers an hour. Village probably will be immeasurably improved when the road is better, not only because they won't have the dirt and the rough road to negotiate, as well as the dust that comes from the vehicles that do negotiate it, but they'll also have a quicker, easier route for all of their produce and for their own personal access to their own fields. It's a major effort through here. This is rough country. Whether it will improve the standard of living or not, I don't know. I hope so. I'm standing on some of the material that will be used ultimately to finish off this part that we're looking at right here, I think. May even be used as the cement. That's probably what it is. They do it. The simplest of machines, but they get the work done. They don't have the volume of equipment that we have, not to mention the quality. But they just keep working at it like a pile of ants. And I'm not trying to be negative. With what resources they have, they manage to get the job that needs to be done. It just takes time. These animals just roam through the landscape. All of a sudden realized he's got a problem. He can't figure out how to get out of there. He's looking at his buddy over here behind me going, why is he so smart? Here's where they load them up. And I'm guessing that, I don't know whether this was brought into here by some earlier stage. You'd think if it were us, we would have it coordinated so we'd load this into a truck and then it would go right to the site. But that's not how they can work here because they have limited amounts of equipment. So this may be what they do. About 10 or 15 minutes ago, I was really starting to freeze in my t-shirt and my simple little dress shirt, so I stopped and put on my rain jacket, which immediately warmed me up, of course. And then, of course, immediately we started to descend to the lower elevation. It's an adventure driving this ratty road. Those trucks, of course, they can jam right up and down, and the cars do the same. But notice how that guy's almost two abreast on a dirt road. People coming down around a blind corner. Everybody just kind of has to adapt, and you've got to anticipate that stuff. Another beautiful pan. kilometers of this rough road before we hit pavement again. That's how we put the gutters in. Notice they've got the little blue pipes there to create water drainage from the subsoil into these channels. Notice it's all done by hand. Nothing's done by a machine. There's a form, and then he works. Somewhere sometimes somebody drops off the materials that are needed, and then they bring in one of these rigs here that has not only the mix of gravel but also the cement and the sand. And then they'll mix it up here. The water's probably in those containers. They mix it, throw it into some kind of a bucket, or the wheelbarrows over here, water. Then the wheelbarrows dump it in, and they keep right on moving down the road. And that's how it gets done. These guys carve it out by hand. The machine came along, the big machine, and carved the roughness, but these guys will make a fine edge. Chuckle if you want, but it works. And notice that the dimensions there, other than this top dimension of 2x4s, is this guy on the left getting the right amount, and then somebody keeps enough in the center and on the side, but it's probably totally variable, and it'll all break down pretty fast over time. About a kilometer down there, about a kilometer back down the road, we hit what was hard packed dirt, which was just like asphalt, so it was like hitting a brand new pavement. And then of course we got right into the crap again, and now here we are. Here they put in this gravel here, so they're going to build this road base up probably, it looks like a foot and a half. Now you can see how much depth there is here. The machine you see behind that one, the one that's moving right now, has water in it also, so it can not only roll down but spray water to get greater compaction. Guess now I shift up onto this higher road. Cave way up on that face. Flowers, whatever they are. Probably about 3/4 of an inch across. Here's a lonely little pansy type flower. An even smaller, quaint little 1/4 inch flower that I hadn't even noticed before. This is interesting because this farming looks like it's more sophisticated, more kind of like what you'd see in Arizona, where they're using the plastic and the rows are a little bit wider. I don't know what the crop is though. Maybe it's, no, I don't know. Looking for a place to take a break because my shoulders were starting to hurt from riding, and I found this carved out pull-out area, and it looks like there's a cave here, so Guess what? Maybe I have my own unmarked cave. I think I'm the first person to discover this cave, however. Well, my cave is not much of a cave, but it is a cave. See where the water poured through there at some level when the water was at that level. Same thing here. Must have been something. It'd be something if there are divers who have the equipment to be able to follow such streams that exist today in caves. And you'll notice this vine that's tumbling off the side of this cliff has some kind of green pod on it. Unless it's poisonous, I would bet the people here use that. Here's a dried one, and it's so hard I can't bend it even, let alone break it open. This one is just marginally more pliable. One that was broken open by something going over it. Probably one of those big rocks. And so it's got seeds in there and something else. So I'm sure they use it for something. Another place I can walk into and get a look into my cave. And some more views of how rugged this karst can be. Looking back where we were before. It's interesting how the water carves tiny little channels as well as big channels. Vertical channels as well as horizontal channels. Now just west of Tabak, the name that is given to the trucks that carry the dogs over to Vietnam for food. That looks like an aquaculture setup down there. Reminds you of something you'd see in the Southwest. Sometime a little bit later, maybe within the hour, we'll turn south to Khong Lor Cave, which is supposed to be quite the thing. Earlier in the morning, the vistas are more dramatic because the colors are washed out like they are. I was right through the blast through that little town. This is right after the power plant, which is at the bottom of the hill. I just videoed. I noticed something that I thought was too much like what I needed to check out, so I came back and it was exactly the falls that I wanted to see. So after about a mile run up through here with a couple of patches of water with some beautiful butterflies around it, which I will stop at. Here I stopped this gentleman here to watch my bike. You have to pay 5,000 kip out of the ticket they give you, and then we walk in from here to the falls. This is a good hiking respite from what's turned out to be pretty much bouncy, arduous day, but interesting nevertheless. The falls can't be too far because I think you can hear it. Might even be somewhat original forests or jungle too. This is what's always irritated me about Tarzan. He leaves his vines hanging right in the middle of the trail to Nam Sanam Waterfall. Here's their water system with a break in it. In 2,000 years or so they'll fix it. They tried to fix it with duct tape and some branches. Just give you a little sense of what it's like walking through this jungle. It's a black butterfly that flitters around in the understory. And I'll keep the camera on in case you can see when he flies as I approach him. I think there's some orange on the inside, but you never get to see that. Here he looks almost translucent. Hey, the little river, or creek now, but river when it in the wet season, is over there. To my left as I go up, I just felt a nice cool breeze through here, and I can hear the falls. The first time I said I could hear it, I was wrong. It wasn't the falls, it was just a rivulet. 100 meters from here, and look at the size of this tree. Maybe we can get a better view. Those buttresses make it look a lot more huge than it. First view of it, that may be it. Well, this is all there is, but you can imagine that if it were the rainy season, the water would be pouring off of there, spilling into this huge pool, rotating the water like a washing machine, and then thrashing itself down through these rocks, all the way as far as you can see. It would put pretty dramatic. Probably something on YouTube. Don't think I'll make that climb up along the side. Not worth the risk. Probably up there just kind of flat water before it tumbles off. But if we look up higher, you can see more falls. And my guess is that there are a couple of levels that it falls off of. One you can just make out through the trees. And that little bit falling off right now would probably be a torrent as wide as all that rock that we can see. All of these rocks have tumbled off the sides as the falls, probably over the eons, has worked its way back into the plateau that it falls off of. It's a gorgeous butterfly, but it won't be anything if it doesn't open up its wings. Whatever the reason, this little spot and another one further down this trail attracts these butterflies. Okay, and here is the other patch. Now these are all the yellow and whites, but over there are all the dark ones. If I just move carefully, I may just be able to insert myself into the middle, and they'll get used to me and just fly around and light. The really gorgeous one that I saw earlier, we're not going to see. Apparently, I don't see any of them here. Huge one up there. There's like a bat. That matter, it may be one. Right there was a pretty one, even. First full bomb that I've seen. I assume it's one of ours. I don't really know. They make boats out of this, believe it or not. Tham Nang, I think, that little place I stopped, where there's a bridge, is where they use boats made out of our former bombs. Probably about 7:45 in the morning, and I'm on my way back to Thakhek. So I'll just do a slow plan from the top of this mountain I'm climbing over right now. Someday, that pile of pollution may be gone. Some kind of country. You're rugged hiking, that's for darn sure. Trying to get a shot of these hills, but I can't get out from underneath these grasses. Tried to get a shot of this without the power poles, but I can't get the elevation. So this is today's soup, and it has these little meatball thingies in it, whatever they are. Pork, I think. And then this is something different. It's almost gelatin, but it's almost tofu-ish. But they call it something different, and they start laughing when I ask them what it is. And I have them slice up and put me some tomatoes in there. These are these long beans that you get. They kind of taste like, well, they taste like green beans, but not like our green beans. And these are mint. I love the mint in there. That's a real nice touch. I think that there may even be some mushrooms in here. I'm not sure what that is. A piece of pork, I think.